Hello, guys. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day wherever you are at. And thank you so much for joining my YouTube channel, Surprise with Sophia. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. And my name is Dragon Nguyen. Um, Today, I'd like to announce that I'm starting my series on YouTube here. You guys can start watching every other day. I'm going to come out with a new series. It's about why I'm proud to be an Asian American in United States here. First, I'd like to share you a little bit of my background and how my family and I came to be came to United States, and how we have a chance to come to United States in the late 1980s. First, let's go all the way back in the early Vietnam War era, American and Vietnam War era, in the 60s, 70s, and kind of dragging on, basically, the Vietnam War started when Ho Chi Minh, which is the North Communist ruler, want to unite the country of Vietnam. So he wanted to unite the country of Vietnam into a communist state. So the South president of Vietnam, which is Ngô Đình Diệm, which is his name back then, he didn't want to unite the country. He wanted to keep the North and the South separate, democracy and communism. Well, then the Vietnam War broke out, which is the communists against the democracy. On the other side, my parents are from the South, so we are on the democracy side. When that happened, the United States of America decided to intervene to help the South president. Well, to help the South president, which is the South part, which is democracy. And with that, guys, the Vietnam War broke out. A lot of casualty, a lot of people had suffered, a lot of family had torn apart, and a lot of American lives have lost too, as you guys may know from the Vietnam War, from the history of the Vietnam War, guys. So with that, right after the war, after the American flee out of Vietnam, my mom and dad was left in Vietnam. So the Vietnamese government charged my dad with the treason, which is betrayed of its country. So they were gonna put my dad in prison for about 18 years. But after good terms, my dad was released early. So with that, my mom had been raising 6 of us kids. Besides that, my dad was in prison. After my dad got out, we were very, very fortunate to have a chance to come to United States with the proving that we had helped and also was on the American side during the Vietnam War. Basically, produced paper that we were on the American side, on the democracy side, during the Vietnam War had happened. So with that, we had to prove, we had to prove that you have to prove your health is good. All of us in our family, you don't have any TB or anything, any weird disease that you don't want to bring in this country. So you had to be treated, which was fine, all of our members. And you had to produce all the paper that the American embassy had asked you to request you to prove. So it's a lot of proving or disproving, whatever they want you to prove. With that, we had a chance to come to America. We were going in like I say, on the term that my dad and my mom was a soldier for the South Vietnam, and also the American side, which is the democracy side. So with that, we they transfer us to Philippines. We stayed in Philippines for 6 months. That was part of our kind of adaptation phase. So they moved. I was really young at that time. My mom, my dad, and my three of the guys and one girl. Which at the time there's four. Like I said, there's six of us in a family. So we migrate to Philippines. There in Philippines, you were supposed to learn English. So at that time, the American embassy would hire many Filipino teachers that would teach you the American culture, um, as well as the learning English and how to get a job and how to adapt in the new world, which is America. So in 6 months, we stayed in Philippines for six. We stayed in Philippines 6 months, and every day they would divide us based on our English speaking skill and communication. So what grade you were gonna be in. At that time, I was too young, so they put me in kindergarten age, which basically I learned English and I have a little snack at lunch, and then a little more English, and then I was released from. I get to go back to my. They call it, what do you call it? Like kind of like a camp area where they built little houses and stuff like that. So at that time there was like thousands of Vietnamese families that migrate that went to our the American program, which stayed in Philippines for 6 months. So while in Philippines, you learn English, and they all this time they would send you letters. Okay, first step you do this, second step you do that. So they teach you English, and also every day they would ration out foods based on your family size. So you have six. Let's say you have 6 people in your family. They would ration out. Okay, this how many pounds of rice you get, how many vegetable you get, how many fish meat you get, and fruit, etc. So that happened 6 months. So towards the end of the 6 months, you also they also interview you. They would ask you, okay, what kind of education you would like to live in, and what kind of low crime area and stuff. So you would share your thoughts on how you like your new world to be. They're not going to ask you, okay, guys, would you like to live in LA, Hawaii, California, New York, where a lot of people like to live, nice and warm weather. Everybody like that, but they have to ask you, different kind of questions and see how you would feel. What I mean? So based on those questions, my mom and dad, I would tell them that we like a really good education state, and we like low crime. Everybody likes that. So a good education, low crime, not too busy, no violence and stuff. So we ended up in the Midwest at that time. And we went at Midwest. So that was where we were. And of course, to share you, I remember very vaguely, but a lot of details. At that time I was about maybe 8 or 9 years old. But Philippines to me was a beautiful, beautiful country. Fleeing from, moving from Vietnam to Philippines, it's about the same climate. It's not too much different. It's hot, humid, no snow at all. Beautiful. It's a beautiful island. I remember many, many waterfalls, and the food was great. The journey from where we were landed, our planes landed in Manila, and to our spot where we reside for the next 6 months was a trip that I will never forget. All of us, I remember, they packed us in very like almost like a school bus. You know how uncomfortable sitting in a school bus, let alone um, Philippines has a lot of has hills and mountains. So I remember all my whole family and many other family was sitting on this big old bus. It was crowded, not so many, not so much air conditioner at that time. It was so we were going. I mean, literally going up the mountain, and the bus was like literally going up and down, and many people were throwing up at that time. It was just a something that you won't forget, you know what I mean? And then when we finally get to our spots, I remember my mom and dad and people was whispering, it's like, oh, I can't wait to get off this bus. It is so nauseating. It's just, the bus kept going literally like this. It's just not a, and also the trip, going up the mountain, around the mountain, going in a circular around, it's just so nauseating. It's like a lot of people are vomiting and stuff. But that I won't forget. Till the day I die, I'll never forget that trip. And also the whole 6 months of our of based on our family and me. I'll never forget are the beautiful and very, very friendly Filipino people that are friends. We still kept in touch over the last 30 something years, guys. And our educator, our teachers that ended up teaching my first few English words of like hello, how are you, and hospital, police. I remember my first word when my teacher was teaching me. It's like pronounced. They put POLICE, police, on there, but I didn't know how to pronounce it, so I pronounced it really weird. I said like police or something like that. But I remember the teacher was saying, no, this is how you pronounce police, as police. It was just something that when it happens to you like that, you will never forget, those just and I remember when I said that, all my friends at that time, they were kind of like laughing and snickering. I bet they didn't know how to pronounce it too. So that was, and every day for me, I look forward to the snack time, which is all of us, they would, the teacher would hand out all of us each a bag of like chips, chips. And then we talk about the chips on what's the name of the chips, and then turn around, and we talk about the different ingredients, what's contained in the chips, because all the chips that they were given to us, that they want to tell us what the chips contain and what the name of it is, and all the ingredients. It has salt and stuff like that, which at that time it really didn't click to me. But but of course, when you were a kid, I was a kid, I remember it didn't click. But I remember and stuff, and I also want to thank all my teachers back then. Thank you, guys, in my Filipino teachers, back then. And we took a lot of pictures, which my mom and my whole family and I still kept these days of them. And so moving on, close to our day of leaving Philippines, the island of Philippines. So we ended up choosing the Quad Cities, which is the four cities, which is Davenport, Rock Island, Moline, and Bettendorf. Those are the four cities. It's called the area called Quad Cities. Those are four cities. So I remember. Back to what I just said earlier, guys. They ended up choosing for us the Quad Cities. That's where we are going to stay there permanently. So once I remember we landed in December 8th. Don't quote me on that. I think December 8th or December 6th of 1989, around that time. Okay, I remember wearing a United jacket, that they had that was given to us. It was very very comfy, and I still maybe I'll drag some pictures of me wearing that. I was just a little kid, guys. Uh, has a United Airline emblem on there. Um, very very memorable to me and my family. So we step on off the airplane. I immediately jump off the plane in Moline Quad Cities airport, Moline Quad City International Airport. I jumped off the plane. It was freezing cold with my jacket on. Immediately I ran off. It was snowy. I think it probably had maybe 6 inches or maybe 8 inches of snow at that time. I jump off the plane, guys. Now you have to notice that the air, at that time was so cold, and the snow back then it was really cold, and you could crunch it up, make it to a snowball, and do a snow fight. I remember watching American movie of where they have snowball fights. I was doing that, and my mom's like, come on, come on, get in here before you freeze to death. To me, it wasn't really that cold, but to my mom and my dad, it was really cold. You know how when you were a kid, your immune system is a little bit different from an adult, because your immune system is actually better, so you don't really feel cold as much. But for my mom and my dad, it was really really cold. I remember. So anyway, when we arrived in the United States, we're in the Quad Cities. That's where we reside. We rented the house there we rented a house for almost I think almost 6 or 7 months, and then my mom and dad saved up some money. My brother, sister, we worked whatever we could to find. I remember they were working at IBP. That's what Iowa or Illinois Beef Produce. That's just the place where you process your beef. Process cows, and it's a very very hard working condition. I was fortunate at my age. I didn't have to get a job. All I had to do was just go to school, and so I besides that, at my age, I picked up English very fast compared to my brother. My sister was a little bit older than me. My sister Mai was I think she started in junior high at Williams Intermediate, and I started at my first school was at Buchanan Elementary. Still exists today, and also Williams Intermediate still exists today. That's in Davenport. So back up a little bit. So when we just got to America, we had to wait for a little bit, because we had to wait for a few weeks, because our Social Security card, when it arrives, you can apply to go to work. You know what I mean? And also my mom and dad and my brother and my sister, who at the time was eligible to get a permit for a driving test. Permit to drive, and also get a driver's license to drive. So I remember my dad bought his first car. It was a Ford station wagon. It was kind of painted as kind of a woody color, but it got us to where we needed. It was a cheap little car. I think I don't recall how much he bought it for, but it was a cheap little car. But it didn't matter what it is, as long as it gets you to point A, point B. That's all it is. It's all scratched up, or doesn't look good. But when you're an immigrant, when you're a refugee to this new place called America, you do what you have to do to survive, to get to point A to point B. Besides that, my sister Mai, Eden, Ben, three of them. I think Mai started junior high. My brother Eden started high school. My brother Ben started college at Scott Community College, and I think I was in third grade. I believe, yes, I was in third grade at Buchanan Elementary. Um, Now back up a little bit on my first few months or maybe a few years. Well, maybe a few days of school, guys. It was funny. It was fun, but funny too. Whenever I think about it, I've lived in America for over 30 years, guys, and to think about all the school that I went through, it was just sometimes you think about it and it cracks me up. You just puts a smirk on your face. So, like I said, thank you so much for all of my Filipino teacher that taught me English. But anyway, so when they were teaching me English in Philippines, they have their own accent. So of course, every English region you speak English, you create your own little dialect or So instead of teaching me like hello, hi, I don't recall them teaching me the word hi. I remember teaching me hello, the English word hello. How are you? My name is. Anybody say how are you? You say I'm fine, thank you, and you. Um, and there was some basic words like A, B, C, D, E. I know that a lot of people know that, and counting 1, 2, 3. And just basic like salt, sugar, coffee, pizza, hamburger. Where is the bathroom? That's kind of important whenever you go anywhere, right? Everybody knows that. But certain words that I don't remember. I remember. I don't remember that some of the Filipino teach me. It might have been just a different region. You know what I mean? That some words are used more often, so they don't teach me certain words. Like instead of saying "How are you?" teaching me how to instead of saying another way you could say hello, hello, how are you, or how are you doing. I don't remember the word "How are you doing," so a few of my American friends at that time, when I first started in Buchanan Elementary in Davenport, some of my American friends would say, back then, guys, my name was Tao. So they'd say, hey, how are you? Hey, Tao, how are you doing? I'm like, what's how are you doing? So I remember running that how are you doing in my head. I'm like, I know what how are you is, but what's how are you doing? So I didn't know what that word was. I remember to this day, how are you doing? And I'm like, what's how I'm doing? I'm like, I don't remember my teacher teaching me the word, how are you doing? So I'm like, well, I don't know what how are you doing is. So I'm like, I don't know. So I just like shrugged my shoulder and say, I don't know. And I remember their reaction. They looked at me, it's like, okay, dude, I guess you don't know how are you doing. So this day, I'm like, that was kind of dumb of me. I should have said, yeah, I'm fine, I'm good, you know what I mean? But you just don't know, you know what I mean? And thank you so much for I remember my teacher, Mrs. Lehan, and I think at the time, Mrs. Van Fossen too, that came to my house. Oh, these teachers, I swear I owe them, a great gratitude for helping so many Vietnamese American at that time, like myself, that first, came to the United States. We don't know where to catch the school bus, the yellow school bus. I remember she came to my house and say, okay, this is where you stand, 6:30 in the morning to wait for the school bus, and if you don't if you don't wake up on time, they're gonna pass you, and you're gonna have to get your own transportation to school. And a couple times I was late, and God bless the school, school bus lady actually knew that I just arrived to America. So, and she went in the house and knocked on the door and said, hey, get up, you gotta go to school. So my mom's like, yeah, we forgot. So they dragged me out, bring me to the school bus, and there I was, God bless those people, Mrs. Lehan, Mrs. Van Fossen, Mrs. D, Mrs. Dolan, Mrs. Stewart, all the teachers back then, Honey, I'm doing YouTube video, honey. Go to mommy. Mommy, get you ready for school. That's my daughter, guys. Hold on 1 minute here. That was my daughter, Sophia. She was just knocking on the door. she's getting up ready for school, guys. You will, I'm sure, if you subscribe to my channel, you guys gonna see a lot of her because she is the daughter, uh, my only daughter as of right now. Love her to death, and you're gonna see my wife too, Tiffany Nguyen. Anyway, so back to that. Very, very thankful for Mrs. Lahan, Mr. Lahan too, Miss Van Fossen, Mrs. Dolan, Mrs. Stewart, um, all those teachers. They had put a big, they had shaped my life and also all of my friend at the time, as far as our journey to America, you know. So thank you so much. I can't, I owe them a lot. Every time I see them, I give them a big hug, and I'm like, thank you so much, guys, for helping us, achieving our American dream. So fast forward to that, I started my third grade at Buchanan Elementary, and went through the whole system. I started in the ESL program, which is English as a second language, for all anybody that first come to America. They test your English skills, and they would put you in English as a second language, certain classes, to teach you, to sharpen your English skills. So after 3 years of taking the ESL courses, my teacher, I remember Mrs. Lahan and Mrs. Karstens at Williams Intermediate. At that time, I went grade 3, grade up, so I was in Williams Intermediate. And Mrs. Karsten tested my English skills, English vocabulary. So she says, based on our test results that we conducted on you, you have graduated from the ESL program, English as a second language. So you don't need us anymore. So from now on, you will be taking regular class like all of the American kids. So I'm like, okay, so I won't see you anymore, which is kind of sad. But I had Mrs. Karsten for like maybe a half a semesters, a half a semesters. So that was, but she very, very nice. She was one of my teachers I was very, very thankful to. Mrs. Dixon, Mr. Jolson, Mr. Hafel, Mrs. Gustafson, all Mr. Medema, So I started at Williams Intermediate School, guys. It was my 2 years going to school there was great. I started track and field. I started wrestling. I started cross country. All as much as I could, and I did show choir. And I did a cappella too. So I tried to be as a rounded student as I can, and I started different clubs too. National Art Honor Society, National Honor Society. So my journey so far through the junior high school was great. So after that, I went to 9th grade. So I started freshman at Davenport West High School, home of the Falcons. So there I started, taking many class too. I love that school. At that time, it's one of the largest school in the state of Iowa, and a lot of memorable, events. Went to my first homecoming, prom. Started taking a lot of courses: accounting, Spanish, psychology, biology, calculus. Mrs. Swords, Mrs. Dixon, all of my teachers that helped me to where I am today. Very, very thankful for that. And, besides that, very, very thankful. So I graduated from Davenport West in the year 2000 and went to college and finished up in 2005, 2006. And to this day, guys, part of, like I say, part of my video that I'm starting, why I'm proud to be Asian American, because despite many people, these days, that says America is a bad country and they don't want to live here, and they want to leave this country, despite all the stuff that you guys hear. America is still the number one country. I really believe number one country on this earth. Many people. It doesn't matter what country you guys you're from. You always want to come to United States of America. This is a place. This is a place of opportunity. We don't care what race you are. Look at me. I'm Vietnamese American. We don't care what race, what age, how you are. But if you come here, if you come here the right way, you can do whatever your dream is. We don't care. As long as you work hard, that's your business. As long as you work hard, you believe in what you do, you can make it. I really believe that. My family and I are very, very fortunate to get to this point. I love my family, my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, now my wife, my daughter. My family is very, very important to me. I'm sure it is very important to you. I try to do the best I can, and this country gives me all the tools. To me, I think that I can grow as a nowhere. My family and I first moved to this country in, I told you, in late 1980, in late 80s, and look where we are. As of right now, I have a lot of plans that I want to achieve, and I have to work hard for it. But it can be achievable if you work hard and do what you're supposed to do. You can achieve it, guys. Tomorrow is July 4th, and happy birthday, America. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come to this country and do what I can here. My rights is given to me, and all this. Thank you so much, and happy birthday, America. And also, guys, thank you for subscribing and watching my channel. If you can please like, share, and share my video will be very helpful. And I will be coming out with more series of videos of why I'm a proud Asian American, and share my stories of how I feel that America is the number one country in the world. And I would, guys. And also, I'm not, this video, all my series is not supposed to be it's not geared towards Democrat or Republican or anything like that. It's just my strict opinion of how I feel, guys. And I'm not towards anything at all. But I will always support my president. Doesn't matter who it is. Right now is President Donald J. Trump. I will support him. Whoever the president next is, I will support him. Doesn't matter if he is a Democrat or he's a president, or if he is a socialist or whatever. I will support him, because that's part of my rights. That's part of my belief as an American citizen, and as an Vietnamese American living here. So thank you so much, America, for giving me this opportunity to live in this country. And I have a lot more things I want to achieve in my life. And happy birthday, America. Happy July 4th. And next, you guys going to see a video of my daughter and I doing Pledge Allegiance to the United States of America. I remember when I was a kid, Mrs. Linda Lehan, my English as a second language teacher, teaching me that, put my right hand up and say, I pledge allegiance to the United States of America, learning that and doing it every day whenever we get to our classroom. It was great. It really just put put that memory, put a piece of rock on my mind that America, that I live in this country and I need to support this country no matter what. Because guys, if we don't support our country, we will fall. And even though my motherland is Vietnam, but I'm living in this country now, and I support this country no matter what. So thank you guys. Please support my next video, guys, when it released on YouTube here. So thank you so much. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and thank you for watching this video of mine. Thanks, guys.